What up again? Hope you like the new mic setup. That's why I'm wearing this mask. That's way you can actually hear me better instead of trying to hear me through a fucking helmet. So, back again with today's topic, following off from our last video, which is how to actually get good at riding. It seems to me like if you ask a lot of people today, they'll tell you, oh, just ride out on the street or go to the track or, you know, practice body position and stuff, which, that does help. Obviously, experience helps build up your ability to ride, but it's not what keeps you from crashing. It's not what keeps you highly reactive and gives you the skills to just react at a moment's notice when something happens. So, if we look at actual data, Department of Transportation says that 98% of all motorcyclists, and that's all motorcycles, super sport, Harley guys, you name it, are going to go down. 98% crash rate. Now, the reason that that happens is because not that people don't know how to ride, it's that people don't know how to react, which is a totally different skill set. Anyone can get on this bike and feasibly ride it pretty good. They can figure out very quickly how long it takes to stop, how quick can it accelerate, how much they can lean it. But it's what happens when a 2x4 is in the middle of the road on the freeway at 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. It's what happens when you get speed wobbles at 140. It's a car pulls out in front of you, you're doing 160, and they just, like, these are the things that people don't know have, people don't have any training on. These are the things that when split second reaction times matter and second nature takes over and it's a simpler reflex as pulling your hand away from a hot stove, that they get caught in situations that fuck them up. And there's only one place that you can get those skill sets. There's only one place that gives you the space and the forgiveness to crash over and over again where you're going to learn those kind of skills. And that is on the dirt, not on the street. You can ask any one of them, even the MotoGP guys, guess where they practice the most? On dirt bikes, motocross, trail riding. That's where you actually become a good rider. Now, most of y'all don't have dirt bikes. Most of y'all didn't start off on dirt bikes. For those of you that did, good for you, because you have 1,000 times more skill sets than all these other riders combined that have never set foot on dirt. There's no place where you're constantly clutching, correcting, you're constantly dealing with oversteer, understeer, you're constantly dealing with elevation changes, huge bumps, the bike's ass end flipping and whipping around on you. It's only on the dirt where you have this constant corrective state where you're constantly correcting the bike and your posture and everything, accounting for your surroundings, trying to look ahead at the next obstacle. And that's it's when it comes down to it, there's just no replacement for that time. What you will learn on a dirt bike compared to learning on any form of street is night and day. They're not even in the same genus. Like, if you want people to have really good skills, if you want people to have a high safety record and low incident rate, you got to get them on the dirt. And most people are just never going to do it. Either they're too scared or they don't have a dirt bike. They spend all their money on street stuff, which is fine. Dirt isn't for everyone, but you got to spend some time on it. And I don't really care what people say. You can harp on it all day. Well, that's your opinion. No, no, no. Well, yeah, it is my opinion. I used to be a pro motocross racer, and my first bike was a 1000. It was a factory edition Gixxer 1000, and I called it the suicide machine because you could lift the front end in every gear. It was just insane. It was unbelievably fast. It was a death trap. God, I loved that bike. Yeah, I know what you're going to say, Gixxer, but in reality, I never went down. I avoided so many accidents on other people's behalves that would have caused horrible situations had I not been able to react in the way that I could because of my history on the dirt. I was a pro motocross racer for 3 years. I rode dirt for like 10 before that. But when you are translating that kind of skill set into the street, this is suddenly feels like the most stable thing on the world. It's the equivalent of like going from a unicycle to a freaking skateboard. You're just like, whoa, there's so much less work I have to do. This is way easier to balance. There's so much traction. It's so stable in comparison. It's laughable compared to trying to be a fast person on the dirt. So I beg of most of you that if you actually want to get good, you actually want to learn real rider skill sets, you really want to be the best, or you want to be the shit, and you want to learn to wheelie, learn all these really upper level skills, get on the dirt, borrow a friend's dirt bike, rent a dirt bike. I don't know how you got to do it, but get some time on the dirt and see how quickly your mindset about riding changes. Because once you do, and you get back on your street bike, you're gonna be like, "What the hell have I been doing this whole time?" The everything will start making so much more sense. You even see it in the MotoGP guys. A lot of times they'll be like, well, "Why are they hanging a foot out when they come into a turn and they've got their leg out?" That's a dirt bike habit, and it's because they're mentally trained so hard to balance themselves like they would on a dirt bike that they literally still do it in MotoGP. Like that's how effective and second nature that is ingrained on a pro level rider. Like that's something that you should take considerably serious when you have the best riders in the world doing that. Everyone always says, well, if it was really good, it would have made it into Formula One, or, would have been used by the pros. Well, that's what the pros do. They practice on the dirt. And if you want to actually take your riding serious, if like riding is your life, if riding is a part of who you are, if you are an actual biker boy, biker girl, you need to get your ass on the dirt. No substitutions, no ands, ifs, or buts. For anyone taking it serious, that's a worthy investment into your skill set, your time, and your safety. And if people want to hate on it, if people want to find some excuse, go ahead by all means, but just ride within your limits, man. I mean, there's only so much that you're going to be able to do when something goes wrong, and try to just do your best to be a risk mitigator at that point. Don't go for a shady gap. Don't try to take that lane split in the middle of a turn on the freeway if that guy looks like he's wobbling. There's just too many obvious indicators that I see a lot of people getting themselves into, and it ends up costing them their life or their livelihood because they're basically paralyzed or just too fucked up to keep living a normal life. But that's kind of a whole nother aspect to it for a lot of you guys that just bought one of these and swung your leg over it, is you really don't understand the psychology of risk mitigation. Yeah, everyone wants to have fun, bust some wheelies, do some burnouts, go speeding, roll racing, all those things, and that's what bike life's all about. But at the end of the day, you got to be smart enough to know when to risk it for the biscuit. There's a time and a place. I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody bust a wheelie and take off, and they're on side streets, and they fucking just go straight into a car that pulls out or goes on the last minute yellow as it turns red. Just like could have been avoided if there was just a little common sense of like, well, I'll just wait till I'm somewhere that's not so busy, or I won't do this dumb shit in the busiest part of the day, or I won't fucking take that gap that seems questionable because I know, especially if you're in an area you're familiar with, you know the traffic patterns, you know how people drive. You're already counting on people not to see you. But it's like some of y'all have a short circuit in your brain where all of a sudden the common sense just flies out the window. And it's as if you just lost the logic to process, is this dangerous or not? Which, hey, guess what? We're all going to eventually run into situations like that. But you can mitigate so much of it if you just use a little common sense and don't become a statistic. It's been said since the dawn of time, probably been said since we started measuring statistics. Don't become a fucking statistic. Don't become a statistic. Don't become a statistic. Don't become a statistic. At the end of the day, your awareness is your greatest tool. You have to be self cognizant of the positions that you're putting yourself in. And for the beginner guys, I can't stress it enough. Practice basics. People say it all the time, but practice your basics. Half of you, I see you guys when you take off, you're barely letting the clutch out because you still don't even have the familiarity of where the bike's going to actually start grabbing and going. And I'm like, what are you doing out on public roads and freeways if you literally are afraid to let the clutch out casually and just go off the line? Like, if you don't have that fundamental skill master, don't go take off on the street with a bunch of other cars with kids and mothers and all these people in it. Don't do it. Like, that's just, oh, oh, oh. Why? Why are all the new riders just so, ugh. I just don't understand it. I get the hype. Social media now has got y'all fucking drunk on these looking cool factors and, oh, how much views can I get if I did this or that or I caught this on camera? But you can die very fast on this machine. This demand your respect. This is a living, breathing being, and it wants to kill you. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't care how you feel. If you whiskey throttle, you fuck up, you misjudge a turn, you misjudge a stop. That's it. We're going to your funeral next week and trying to tell your mom what a good kid you were. Like, you better have your shit together and your ducks on a row if you're going to go out in public on this. And especially if you're going to be in groups with other people where just one small fuck up and you're right into somebody else and taking them with you. Like, no, you really got to think your shit through. And that goes for everyone that has ever thrown a leg over a bike. But take my advice for what it is. I've been riding for 20 years on street. I've been riding for 28 years, 29 years if you're going to count dirt. Like, I might know what I'm talking about. I might actually have real advice to give you instead of some stupid shit who just got insta famous after riding for 6 months and fucking is trying to tell you some shit. Take what you will. I'm putting my knowledge out there so that people actually get real feedback now, and instead of going off of the very minimal, no experience advice of these moto influencers and these kids that, and they are kids, most of them are 18, 19, some are even 17, and it's like, you really can't take the advice of somebody who's frankly never even brought a bike to its limits. But I want y'all to be safe. I want y'all to be good. I want y'all to look out for each other. I want to make sure that everyone has at least the right mindset when they go into this world, because bikes have become very popular, especially with these lower CC bikes. And I just really hope that you take my advice for what it is, which is something meant to benefit you. Other than that, man, keep the rubber on the ground. Peace.